John chapter 9, starting in verse 35. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened, we'll get to what happened in a little bit. When Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man and asked, do you believe in the Son of Man? This is another title for understanding, the one who God sent. So when you see the Son of Man, just here, the one who God sent. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man answered, who is he, sir? I want to believe in him. You have seen him, Jesus said, and he is speaking to you. Yes, Lord, I believe, the man said, and he worshiped Jesus. It says, then Jesus told him, I entered this world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and to show those who think they see that they are blind. It says, some Pharisees who were standing nearby heard him and asked, are you saying we're blind? He says, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty, but you remain guilty because you claim you can see. Today, I want to get into the depths of what we think we can see and what we're still ignorant of. And I want to get into the depths of understanding what is entitled to us, what is rightfully ours, and what we have no business delving into. And I was talking over with our team a couple weeks ago on this message. Someone was talking about, they said, it's like the patch of grass between my fence and my neighbor's fence. That's what, who mows the patch of grass between the fences? And I know every engineer goes, why didn't you just put the fences together? But that's not this message. So who mows what is not necessarily within anyone's responsibility? So the title of the message for today is What's Mine? What's mine? Don't high five anyone. Don't speak to anyone. Just sit down quietly and peacefully, but with great joy and gladness of heart. I want to begin right away. John chapter 9, starting in verse 1. I've given you the conclusion of this account, but there's so much that happens within here. John chapter 9, starting in verse 1, it says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? Isn't it nice to know that 2,000 years later, we're still asking relatively the same questions? We may not ask it the same way of whose sins was it, but the disciples begin this account and they go, who's at fault here? Who is to blame? The conversation I have with my children over and over and over again. Who made this mess? Not me. Wasn't me. Who left this out? Not me. I didn't do it. Someone else did it. Maybe today in our country. Why are things how they are? Not me. Them. That party. Those people. The problem is that not everyone is willing to wear a mask, and everyone needs to be willing to wear a mask. The problem is they're taking our personal civil liberties from us, and no one is putting up a fight. Oh, we just came out guns blazing. Like, was that too much from the start? I always find that we prefer to apply the Bible in theory than actual practice. Like we like to apply the Bible theoretically as if it applies to someone else instead of what we're dealing with right now. But let's not do that. Let's just jump into the thick of it and have a whole lot of fun with it, right? Jump in right in the meat of it and go, whose fault is it? Why is our country how it is? Why are people how they are? Why are these different things going on? And my guess is, from my conversations with others, I guess would be similar with you, is that you have an opinion as to what's wrong. I have an opinion as to who is to blame, as to what the real problem is. And this is my guess, is that as you've had conversations with people, or as you have scrolled on social media and others have shared their opinion as to what's wrong, that you have yet to radically transform your heart because of anyone's Facebook post. Is that accurate? Oh my goodness. Is that accurate? Come on, let's celebrate that in the cheap seats so those who are still posting it know it makes no lick of a difference in the world. I have never once gotten an anonymous letter and had the Holy Spirit pierce my heart and go, turn from your wicked ways. Not once, yet to this day. Maybe someone will surprise me. Maybe it'll be this message. Maybe this message will be the one in which I talk about the anonymous letter having no impact, that someone will send me an anonymous letter and that I will repent of my evil ways, no longer wear the flamingo shirt, and do something different. Too deep, too soon? Did I take it too heavy, too fast? I feel like all of a sudden you're like, woo, where are we? What's happening? Back to the passage. They go, whose fault is it? And then in verse 3, it's Jesus answers, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins. This happened so the power of God could be seen in him. He says it's not about where the cause, it's not about the source of the problem. See, this is maybe the greatest characteristic of Jesus, the greatest strength that Jesus has that no one ever talks about. Jesus has the imagination to look forward into how the present circumstances will lead to a better future. Like, Jesus has the prophetic ability to go, this isn't great. But instead of spending all our time looking how this isn't great and looking back in the past to see all the things that are wrong, let's look forward to see what can come of it. And the disciples, like not the Pharisees, not the bad guys, the disciples, the good guys are going, who's to blame, Jesus? Tell us, whose fault is it? Who's really responsible? Who blew it? Who screwed it up? Jesus, we need to know. Jesus goes, no, it's not about that. Let's look at what can come from it. Let's look at the good that can come out of it. If you're a note taker, which I highly recommend that you be a note taker. I tell our team all the time, man, we take notes not because of the quality of the speaker, but because of our posture as learners. If you are a note taker, write this down. It is helpful to find the cause only to the degree that it points to the cure. It is helpful to find the cause only to the degree that it points to the cure. That's why we look for causes, so that we can have solutions. That's why we identify problems, so we can figure out what the answer is. But it is of no good to say, this is why it's wrong, if it doesn't point to how we can fix it. And while most of the world would rather just sit back and blame, while most of the world not theoretically, in this moment, like this very moment that we are standing in right now, while most of the world would rather just go, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's the politicians' fault, it's this group's fault, it's this group 200 years ago's fault, whoever it is. Jesus goes, no. It is only helpful to find the cause to the degree that it points to the cure. Let's look to how to make things better, not whose fault is it. And what I want you to see tonight as we have this discussion on what's yours, what's mine, I want you to see this. It is not yours to blame. It's not yours to blame. It's not yours to blame. I said it 3 times. I feel like we get the point, right? It's not yours to blame. And it's really hard to have a conversation nowadays that isn't about blame, isn't about pointing a finger at someone else and seeing what's wrong. But this is why it isn't yours to blame, is because people's problems aren't simple. They're not. Your problems, they're not simple. And you look at someone else's problems, and we can look at other people's problems and go, well, I know how to fix that. They just need to do this. It's not simple. It's not. People's problems aren't simple. Why are you like that? I said that wrong. Let me say it more clear. Why are you like that? There we go. That was better. Not why are you like, why are you like that? Kevin, why are you like that? A lot of reasons. Like a lot of reasons. I don't know. Why is someone else like that? Oh, it probably has a little bit to do with their upbringing. It probably has a little bit to do with their insecurity. It may be genetic. They may just be genetically predisposed to be like that. Like it could be 1,000 different reasons. Sin would be one of them. Disconnection from a Savior would be one of them. People's problems aren't simple. And we have such a tendency to look at the larger world and go, I've got the opinion that is going to fix it. And it is not yours to blame. We're social distancing. Normally right now I would tell you to turn to your neighbor, touch 5 other people, tell them it's not yours to blame. Just mumble it quietly under your breath with some sense of joy. Say it with it. Say, it's not yours to blame. It is not yours to blame. But it is yours to help fix. Jesus, verse 3 again. He says, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins. This happens so the power of God could be seen in him. We. This is not a Father, Son, Holy Spirit we. This is not like a Trinitarian we. He says, we must quickly carry out the tasks assigned to us. We. In the original unedited version of the Bible, Jesus says we, and Peter goes, you got a mouse in your pocket, Jesus? Who is this we? That's not true. That did not happen. We must do this. He says you ready? Like, why is this like this? He goes, Jesus literally in this moment, let me briefly paraphrase this whole passage, only 4 verses. Why is this like this? Jesus goes, doesn't matter. Let's look to what it can be. You, my friend, are part of the solution. You You from day one were intended to be part of the solution. That's why you're here. Have you ever had the friend who's like the I've got a guy friend? Do any of you have that friend, the I've got a guy friend? No, it's not me. I can promise you that. It's not me. It's not, you don't have that friend. Does anyone have the friend that they've always they've got someone I need a plumber. Oh, I've got a guy. I need an electrician. Yeah, I've got a guy. I need someone to disappear and for no one to ever ask any questions. Yeah, I've got a guy. I've got a guy. Do you have that friend, the I've got a guy friend? This is it doesn't matter what the problem is on the face of the earth. They know someone who can handle it. They know someone who can fix it. Ready? Jesus is the ultimate I've got a guy. That's it. He is the ultimate I've got a guy. Let me show you. Ready? There are real problems in our world in education. There are real problems in our world in education. There are real problems in our world in the government. Oh my goodness. The education, you can be silent. But when I went to the next one, what happened? What happened? Are we all sitting there no, I think it's going great. I think our country is spot on. Let's try again. There are real problems in our world in education. There are real problems in our world in the government. There we go. There are real problems in our world in every sphere of life. And we look at what's happening within there, and sometimes we'll pray and we'll go, God, do something, God, do something. And I believe that God is doing something. And I believe that God often intervenes in incredible and powerful ways. But here's the beauty of it. Here we go. We've got problems within our school systems. And Jesus looks at that and he goes, you know what? I've got people there. I've already got people on the scene. We've got problems in our government. He goes, I've got people there. And you may look at that and you go, I don't know if he does. He does. He's got people there. In every sphere of life, Jesus already has boots on the ground. People called by his name who are part of the purpose. People who have been sent by him for a season, for a reason, that they would make a difference in that arena of life. You are Jesus's boots on the ground. Where you are is where no one else is, and you are there for a reason. God has you there for a purpose. I'm almost going to preach this whole message right now. We have 41 more verses to go. He says, we must quickly carry out the tasks assigned to us. Quickly. There is an urgency to it. It is not I'm going to spend the next 5 years figuring out what God wants me to do with my life. You should pray about that, but you should also start doing something right now. You are where you are for a reason. God has you there for this moment. He says we must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. Now, let's see this clearly. You're not the light. He's the light. Now, you are a light, but you are only a light to the degree that you point to the one who is the light. Like you don't come there and simply say, I've got all the answers. No. You point to the one who is the answer because you know the answer. I don't just mean you know the answer. I mean you know the answer. Like you know him. And so I want to explain this as clear as I can as to who you are. I want to take you back to middle school, okay? I want to take you back to middle school. Maybe you need to go through a little bit of therapy right now. Some of you are in middle school. You need the therapy. You're like, oh, Kevin, please don't do it. Please don't do it. I have blocked that out of my mind. You say people's problems aren't simple. That is why I am like that. Middle school, right there. So just spare all that. Take you back to middle school. And I want to take you back to that. Do you remember like that moment when the teacher would like ask a question and no one would answer, and everyone would just kind of like put their head down because they didn't know what the answer was? It's kind of like when you're in a group and they say, does anyone want to pray? And everyone's like, if I don't look at them, they can't call on me to pray. It's middle school. That's what it is. So you're back in middle school and the teacher goes, hey, does anyone know the answer? And no one answers. And then they call on someone. They say, would you give the answer? And that person just sits there and they just stare at the teacher. As if somehow if they just stare at the teacher will forget that they called on them. Or maybe by the grace of God, the answer will jump into their brain. And they're looking like this. They're thinking hard. They're looking crazy, but they're thinking hard. And you know that moment where the teacher calls and the person's standing there, like, oh, come on, I need to know the answer. And there's that person who's on the side of the class. They're kind of sitting over on the side, but they're close towards the front because they want to be really close to the teacher, and they know the answer. And they're kind of doing this. They're doing I didn't mean to put my glasses back on. That was kind of a Freudian slip of the person who knew the answer. I'll just leave them there for this moment. So they're sitting up front and they know the answer and they're kind of doing this. They figured it out and they start shifting in their seat, like moving all around to call some attention to themselves, and they're kind of, I know, me. I know. You remember that person? Like the person has already been called upon to know the answer, and then the other person knows the answer, and they're making a big deal that they know the answer, and the other person doesn't know them. You know who you are? You're not that person, because everyone hates that person, okay? You're not that person. This is who you are. You're the person who's sitting on the other side of them, who all of a sudden remembers the answer. And you start trying to give the person the answer. And you're like, 1492. The question was, when did Columbus sail the ocean blue? Just to be clear, in case if you didn't figure that out. But you're like, 1492. That's who you are. That's who you are. Like, this is important to understand. Like, the world is looking for an answer. And we are not the people who go, we know it, you're dumb, you're an idiot, call on me. Let me tell you how wrong you are. We're the person who comes alongside them. And we go, I want you to know the answer. I want you to be able to give the answer because I know the answer. I know that Jesus is the light. And I'm not trying to get the teacher to look at me. I want you to know the light. Like, this is our role. This is who we are as a people. And you may not think that this person is a big deal until you've sat in this person's shoes. Because when you've been in that moment and you feel like life is pressing in upon you and all you need is just a little bit of help, like just a little bit of help, when just someone reaching out in the smallest way makes the biggest difference in the world, you know how important this person is. And that one small act that isn't selfish, one small movement towards the other to benefit the other makes all the difference in the world. There are tasks that are assigned to you that no one else has assigned to them. There is purpose that is placed in your hands, in your sphere of life, that only you can carry out. There are people who need help, that you are the only one who is positioned to help them. And so my call to you is to say, hey, it's not yours to blame. You're here to help. You're here to help. This is who we are as a church. While everyone else is enamored with their opinion as to why this is wrong, we are the ones who, instead of going, yeah, they're at fault, and they're at fault, and they're at fault, and 200 years ago they were at fault, and this group is at fault, and these people are at fault, and they're really at fault. We're the ones who come in and go, listen, how can I help? And let me tell you, in the midst of all these other things going on, the answer is that God loves you. And I love you too. And while they may all blame, I want you to know this. I am here to help. I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to not be the light, but to point to the one who is the light, because only he can save. Only he can deliver. Only he can take a life that is wandering and meaningless and without purpose and help that person to raise up in a moment, to take the blind and to help them see that they would know who Jesus is. Come on, church, let's celebrate this in this moment. We're here to help. We're here to help. How many verses do we have left? We're on verse 5. Let's move. Jesus says, but while I am here in this world, I am the light of the world. Then he spit on the ground. You go, what? Made mud with the saliva and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. There's this piece of me that's got to wonder, what is this man thinking? Like, he's blind, but he's not deaf, right? Like, did he just spit? What's he doing? Ugh. I don't have time for that. spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. He told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. Siloam means sent. Remember that. We're going to get back to that. That is important. Siloam means sent. So the man went and washed and came back seeing. It says his neighbors and others who knew him as a blind beggar asked each other, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said he was. And others said, no, he just looks like him. But the beggar kept saying, yes, I am the same one. Is this like this passage? There's a part of me that wanted to just like paraphrase all this and read it really quick and stuff like that. But I want you to sit in this. This is the most hilarious biblical miracle that there is. Like it kills me. They go, it's him. It's not him. It just looks like him. And the entire time he's going, it's me. Bill, come on. No. He just looks like him. Yes, I am the one. They asked, who healed you? What happened? Verse 11, he told them, the man they called Jesus made mud and spread it over my eyes and told me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself. So I went and washed, and now I can see. Quick note right here. Like, this is the most important account you can ever give on your life. This man knows no theology, no doctrine. He has no understanding of biblical history. And yet in this moment, he says, listen, Jesus came, I was blind, now I can see. The account of how God has transformed your life is the most important thing for you to be able to share. This is who I was before Jesus came into my life, and this is how he has transformed me. This is how I'm different. And then I love this part, verse 12. Where is he now? Quick note, first time this man had ever been asked that question. The blind man. Where is he now? I don't know. I don't know. Then they took the man who had been blind to the Pharisees because it was on the Sabbath that Jesus had made the mud and healed him. The Pharisees asked the man all about it. So he told them, he put the mud over my eyes, and when I washed it away, I could see. Some of the Pharisees said, this man Jesus is not from God, for he is working on the Sabbath. Others said, but how could an ordinary sinner do such miraculous signs? So there was a deep division of opinion among them. Oh man, if there is a word that is true to our world today. So there was a deep division of opinion among them. Then the Pharisees again questioned the man who had been blind and demanded, what's your opinion about this man who healed you? The man replied, I think he must be a prophet. The Jewish leaders still refused to believe the man had been blind and could now see. So they called in his parents. They asked them, is this your son? Was he born blind? If so, how can he now see? His parents replied, we know this is our son and that he was born blind, but we don't know how he can see or who healed him. Ask him. He is old enough to speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders who had announced that anyone saying Jesus was the Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue. That's why they said, he is old enough, ask him. It is still not culturally appropriate to claim transformation. It wasn't culturally appropriate then, and it is still not today. You know what is culturally appropriate? To sit in your sin and blame. To sit in your despair and blame. But this man refuses to do so, even when his parents go, we're not getting messy. We're not getting muddy within all this. So for the second time, they called in the man who had been blind and told him, God should get glory for this. Because we know this man, Jesus, is a sinner. Oh, this word is important. God should get glory. He should get praise for this. This is the central issue. Who gets the glory? Who gets the praise? Whose name is known? Who do we celebrate? Who do we worship? This is the central issue of this passage. It is an issue of glory. This is the central issue of your life. Who gets the glory? Is the glory yours or is the glory his? Because I want you to know this. If you are concerned about the praise that you receive, except we don't call it praise, we say how much people like me, or how many people like me, or ensuring that I don't bother or offend anyone. If that is your concern, what you're going to do is you're going to hide behind blame for the rest of your life, because your glory is safe as long as you're pointing your finger at others. But if you understand that the glory is not yours, the praise is not yours, the worship is not yours, you have the ability to walk into situations that you did not cause and still work towards a solution. You have the ability to walk into moments that you didn't make the mess, but to still help clean it up. They say God should get glory for this because we know this man, Jesus, is a sinner. I don't know whether he is a sinner, the man replied, but I know this. I was blind, and now I can see. It says, but what did he do, they asked. How did he heal you? Look, the man exclaimed, I told you once. Didn't you listen? I was blind. Are you deaf? Like, I told you once. Didn't you listen? Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? Then they cursed him. I'm not going to say which words, but they cursed him and said, you are his disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where this man came from. Why? That's very strange, the man replied. He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from? We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but he is ready to hear those who worship him and do his will. Ever since the world began, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone born blind. If this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it. They say, you were born a total sinner, they answered. Are you trying to teach us? Oh, that's a dangerous spot for us to be in. When we look at someone else who we don't think knows as much as us and we go, are you trying to teach me? Are you trying to educate me? I know everything. You go, are you trying to teach us? And they threw him out of the synagogue. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man and asked, do you believe in the Son of Man? Do you believe in the one who God sent? The man answered, who is he, sir? I want to believe in him. You have seen him, and he is speaking to you. Yes, Lord, I believe. And in this passage that is about glory, in this passage that is about praise, where the Pharisees and the religious leaders are so concerned about who gets the glory, only the man who had been blind worships Jesus. Only the man who couldn't see ends up being the one who worships God. This is what is concerning to me. The most educated are the ones who miss Jesus because they're full of opinion. The ones who are the most knowledgeable miss God working in the moment because they're too busy blaming. And at times I find myself in a similar spot. What should we do about this? I got an opinion, but this is what I've had to come to grips with. My opinion does not matter because it's not mine to blame. I'm here to help. And in the same way that I have walked this path, I will share it with you. Your opinion does not matter. You're not here to blame. You're here to help. And the key to this comes in one part early in this passage. In verse 5 and 6, starting in verse 6, it says, then he spit on the ground, made mud, because sometimes for transformation to happen, it has to get a little messy. Sometimes in order for lives to be changed, you have to get into the mud instead of avoiding the mess altogether. He spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. Then he told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. In the pool of Siloam. Now, I want to tell you this. I have no verse that can completely back this up. But as I have studied Jerusalem, and as I know the geography of the city, and this pool of Siloam is actually referenced in the book of Nehemiah, if you want to check it out on your own. In Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 15, it talks about when Nehemiah returns to the city of Jerusalem to rebuild the walls so the people could reclaim their identity and feel safe again. Then when he goes back, one of the key pieces in there is the work that Nehemiah would do on the pool of Siloam. The pool of Siloam was not the most accessible pool in the city of Jerusalem. We are not given the geography of this specific miracle. We don't know exactly where it happens. We know there are lots of pools in the city of Jerusalem, and we know that the pool of Siloam was highly inaccessible. And so, other than the fact of the possibility that this man was just sitting right beside this highly inaccessible pool, I believe that there is reason to believe that Jesus had purpose in sending this man to this specific pool. He tells the man to go to the pool of Siloam, which means sent. There is nothing unordinary about the pool of Siloam other than the fact that it is inaccessible and that it also means sent. If it is the pool of sent, there has to be someone who sends. When you are sent, you do not wander. You don't accidentally wander into sent. Sent means purpose. Sent means intentional. Sent means there is a specific reason why you are there. And I want you to look at Jesus' words. He spits in the ground, makes mud in the dirt, puts the mud, the messiness on the man's eyes, and he doesn't tell the man to go wash the mud off. He says, go wash yourself in the pool of scent. Not go get the messiness off in purpose. He says, bathe yourself in purpose. Bathe yourself in scent. Immerse yourself in scent. Not get it off. Jesus isn't worried about what the man gets off. He's worried about what the man's getting into. And I believe if we are going to embrace this and we are going to resist the cultural pull to simply share our opinion about everything and spend our time blaming, and if instead we are going to be people who walk into difficult circumstances and situations and say, I am here to help. I did not make this mess, but I am here to make it better. I am here to point to the one who is the light. What we must do as a community is we must immerse ourselves in the fact that we are sent. We must bathe ourselves in purpose. And we must understand in this moment, our lives have meaning. Our lives have direction. You are not here on accident. You are not here by a mistake. And you are not where you are in this season by mere circumstances. God has people already there. He has boots on the ground. And it's you. And when you embrace that purpose, You can fulfill the calling that God has for you. And this is what I believe is happening in this moment. I believe there's a parent here. There's a spouse here. There's a boss here. There's an employee here. There's a student here. And you have spent so much of your time recently blaming. And you've been caught up in others' opinions and in your opinion and why everything is how it is. And I believe that in this moment, that God is telling you, embrace the purpose for which I have called you. You are sent. You are sent. Don't spend your time blaming. Don't spend your time complaining. Listen, here's the deal. I am not here to blame because the glory is not mine. And because the glory is not mine, I'm not going to hide behind my opinion. The glory is not mine. The glory is His. The glory is God's. He is the light. I'm only pointing to the light. And so I am not here to blame. I'm here to help. I am not here to point out what's wrong. I'm here to make a difference. I am here to show others, while the other person says, I know the answer, I'm coming to the person saying, no, I know the answer. Let me tell you, I was blind, but now I see. And He is the answer. And I want you to know the answer. And I want you to follow the answer, that you would be the light as well, that you would be sent as well. Church, the glory is not ours. The glory is His. Take 10 seconds right now and give God glory. Give God praise. Celebrate Him. Worship Him. Thank Him. We are not people who blame. He is the one. Let's give God a great praise in this moment. Celebrate our God for all that He's done and looking forward to what He continues to do. Come on, church. Put your hands together. Let's thank our God in this moment.